Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast, where it's all about working on technologies. You will hear the latest tech information, and your host, Kashif Manzoor, brings together product overviews, how-tos, best practices, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting techniques.
To OTechTalks.tv, Open Tech Talks is a virtual sandbox for you. It's a show which is being hosted by myself, Kashif Manzoor. If you're new to the show, welcome to the OpenTechTalks.tv. This is a platform for learning and sharing with each other, and it gives you technology insights, experimentation, and inspiration with the primary objective of learning and sharing. So, are you ready to start with me? We have started from last 5 sessions to learn the essentials of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And if you're new to the show, welcome to you. And if you're an existing listener, thank you so much for being with me from year 2015 onwards. And we are continuously with some breaks. We are doing this show. And your feedback, your comments are the force behind to keep running and to keep recording this one. Now, before we'll go to the topic of today, and I just want to say Eid Mubarak, Eid greeting to you and to your family members. We just had Eid holidays, and today is the last working day, last holiday. There's Saturday here in UAE, and tomorrow we're going to start working and resuming office. Thank you so much for being with me and sharing your comments. And I would like also to share with you that during the Eid holidays, that was a great contribution, and the UAE's leadership that they have vaccinated so much percentage of the population, and we also consider ourselves to be that one, that being in this country, all the residents are getting the free vaccination, and due to that one, the holidays were moment okay, you can go out, although there were restrictions on more than 5 people calling at home, but overall we enjoyed it. So you can have a walk, you can go out, so that was a great relief compared to the last year when we were in our home, and we were not able to meet or physically to anyone. So that's a big achievement, and I think that's what we can say. Vaccination is working in the countries wherever the percentage is high, who's getting vaccinated. So my humble request to you is please get vaccination, and wherever you are in the different part of the world. And there are some countries, and even a lot of countries are even into bad shape from a COVID-19 point of view. India's getting major hit now. Pakistan is in this COVID vaccine, so there's a lockdown in Pakistan and India. So we pray for both the countries that they will get over from this hard time. And now let's go and move back to our topic. Now, if you recall from last 5 session, what we are doing is we started to learn the basics of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And our session in the part 1, we covered an overview of OCI networking, common terms, what are the VCN and subnets, and then different networking gateways, including Internet Service Gateway, NAT Gateway, Dynamic Routing Gateway, DRG. What are the default components of VCN, including route table, security list, and how to set up DHCP options. In the part 4, we have covered how there are different scenarios that if you wanted to migrate your workload, how you will set up public subnet or public subnet with a VPN, or public or private subnet with a VPN. And then we move on to how to secure your network. That was our session number 5, where we covered the access control, security rules. Now this session is also, I think, a part B of the session, where how to secure network. right? And then part of that. And then we covered the access control, security rules. And now today we will go in a more detail into network security groups, security lists, and VCN flow logs. Although we have covered the difference or comparison between network security groups and security lists in session 4, but if you are, I think in session 5, but if you are new, then I think I would suggest you to start from the session 1. That's a better option. So now today our 3 key items are in the agenda. One is network security groups. And basically these are 2 virtual firewall features which are being offered to control the traffic at the packet level. One is network security groups, and then is security lists. So that's the original type of virtual firewall, which is part of the networking service. Now, these features definitely use the security lists, right? Security rules, basically, network security groups and security lists. These are comprising of security rules. And if you want to get the knowledge or the understanding on the security rules, or security lists, then I think the session number 3, part of this OCI audio series, you go to that one and then open Tech Talks, and then you can listen to that one. That will give you the basics of security lists. Now, network security groups, which is commonly called as NSG, these are virtual firewalls for your compute instances or other resources. Now, the common resources which are being supported as of now as part of network security groups are the compute instances. When you create an instance, you can specify one or more network security groups for the instance's primary VNet. Load balancers. When you create a load balancer, you can specify one or more, NSG for the load balancer, not the backend set. You can also update an existing load balancer to use one or more network security groups. You can use DB systems. When you create a DB system, you can specify. Similarly, you can also update the existing DB system. Autonomous database. When you create an autonomous database on dedicated executor infrastructure, you can also update. You can use with the mount targets when you create a mount target. And DNS resolver endpoint when you create an endpoint for a private DNS resolver. So all these are resources, basically compute instances, load balancers, DB systems, autonomous databases, mount targets, and DNS resolver endpoints are being supported as part of the network security groups. Now, compared to security lists, we have already covered this comparison of security lists. Just to recap, network security groups will enable you to create a separate VCN subnet architecture from your application security requirements. You can use NSG with certain, rules and security resources types, which we just mentioned it, computer instances and mount points and also other things. And these network security groups rules function the same as security list rules. For NSG security rules, source basically for ingress rule or destination for egress rules, you need to specify NSG instead of a CIDR. That's the change. When you do a security list or security rule, then you mention the CIDR. Here you mention the NSG. And this, what does it mean? It means that you can easily write security rules to control traffic between 2 NSGs in the same VCN, or even traffic within a single network security groups. With compared to security lists, the VCN does not have a default network security group, and each NSG you can create is initially empty. So it has no default security rules compared to VCN, because when you will create a VCN, then you will have a one default security. Network security groups have a separate and different even limits which are defined to manage it. Now, if we talk about from a overview point of view, the network security groups provides a virtual firewall for a set of cloud resources that have all the same security posture. Take an example of a group of compute instances that all perform the same tasks and thus all need to use the same set of ports. That's become like a one set of postures and one set of activities, actions need to be performed by different or the same type of resources. Now NSG consists of two types of items, or two items. One is which is VNex, one or more VNex. For example, the VNex attached to a set of compute instances that all have the same security posture. So all the VNex must be in the same VCN that belongs to the NSG. And then the security rules. Security rules that define the types of traffic allowed in and out of the VNex in the group. For example, TCP port 22 SSH traffic from a particular source. So there are two items which are required by NSG, VNex and security rules. That comprises it comprises the network security groups. Now, if you have a resources with different security postures in the same VCN, you can write NSG security rules to control traffic between the resources with one posture versus another one. Now let's take an example. We have a one NSG group, which is NSG1, which is for tier 1, which has security rule 1, direction is egress, and destination is then another network security group, which is for tier 2, it's NSG2. So we have two groups. Now what we will do is, let's see how we will set it up, the NSG for both. So for NSG1, you set up egress rule, security rules that specify NSG2 as the destination, and ingress security rules that specify NSG2 as the source. So one is for source and one is for the destination. Similarly, when we will go to NSG2, which is our for tier 2, you set up egress security rules that specify NSG1 as the destination, and ingress security rules that specify NSG1 as the source. So the rules are assumed to be stateful in this exam, taking an example for that one. So that's how you can mention or define the rules into two different security groups. And in a network security groups, there can be 5 maximum VNex, and a packet is allowed if any rule in any of the VNex NSG allows to traffic. So then it will allow the traffic to the VNex. Now, definitely as part of we covered, there are two items in the network security groups. One is VNex and then security rules, right? So we covered the VNex part. Now let's see the security rules. If you're, you need a basic understanding on the security rules, then I think you need to go back to the session 3 of this OCI audio series, and then you will get the basic information. And now the security rules, what we will do is, how we will, the common process for network security groups is create a network security group. Then what we do, we add the security rules to the network security group, and then we add the resource, basically VNex to the network security group. So what we can do, you can create a parent resource, and then you can update the resource with the network security groups. So when you create, for example, a compute instance and you want to add it to, you can add into network security groups. Similarly, if you want to create a network security groups, each, as we know, each VCN, which is virtual cloud network, comes with a default security list. That has a default security rules in it to enable basic connectivity. But when we will create a network security groups, there is no default VCN, default NSG in the VCN. So when you create an NSG, it is initially empty without any security rules or VNex. And if you're using the console, you can add security rules to the network security group during the creation. Or even you can, put a friendly name to the network security groups. It doesn't have to be unique. You can change it later. However, Oracle, what does it? It automatically assigns a unique Oracle Cloud Identifier. And how the Oracle Cloud Identifiers work, the resource identifiers, in the session 1, we have covered that one. And then for the purpose of access control, we need to mention those compartments where you want the NSG to reside. And then definitely we need to have the security rules and group memberships. We can update or remove types of ingress and egress rules or traffic which we need to pass to the VNets. And in the networks, and then what we do is we can even, if we wanted to delete an NSG, it must not contain any VNets or a parent resource. So when parent resource or compute instances, when it's deleted, then it is automatically removed from the NSG it was in. We need to have a IAM secure policy. If you remember, we have covered it in the previous session. You must be having a security access policy by an administrator so that you can use either through REST API or console or SDK or CLI to use it. So there are ways to control it. You can create through the create console, or you can use the API, which is list network security groups, get network security groups, create network security groups, update network security groups. So all these are the different APIs available which you can use to manage this one or create the network security groups. So this one we covered as a first part of the two components, which was the network security groups and the security lists. Now we'll go and we will cover the basics of network security groups. I understand we have already covered it, but it's a virtual firewall which control the traffic at the packet level. Now security lists acts as a virtual firewall for your compute instances and other resources wherever you will use it in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And a security list consists of a set of ingress and egress security rules that apply to all the VNets in any subnet that the security list is associated with it. This means that all the VNets in a given subnet are subject to the same set of security rules. This is not like the network security groups. And the security list rules function the same as network security group rules. But there is a difference between how they are being applied. And as we know, each VCN comes with the default security list that has several default rules for the required traffic. And if you don't specify custom security lists for a subnet, the default security list is automatically used with that subnet. And you can add and remove rules from the default security list. Security lists have a separate and different, from a limits point of view, compared to network security groups. And a security list it acts as a secure firewall, virtual firewall for you. And if we go in a more detail, what the default security list components are part of that one. In the security list, the default security list comes with an initial set of stateful rules, which should in most cases be changed to only allow inbound traffic from authorized subnets relevant to the region that homes or that comprising the VCN or subnet, right? So you need to have the subnet, the list of authorized subnet ranges relevant to each region can be found. So there are subnet ranges. So that's information available on the docs.cloud.oracle.com, IaaS tools, public IP ranges. And what we need to do, we need to mention the stateful ingress rules, which what it does, it allows TCP traffic on destination port 22 SSH from authorized source IP addresses and any source port. These rules makes it easy for you to create a new cloud network and public subnet, launch a Linux instance, or then immediately use SSH to connect that instance without needing to write any security list rules yourself. So these are the default security lists which are available as part of them when you create them. And the important point in this one is the default security list does not include rule to allow remote desktop protocol access. And one time I was facing this challenge that I thought that it was allowed, but then I spent some hours to that why it's not working. And if you're using Windows images, then what we need to do a stateful ingress rule for TCP traffic on destination port, which is usually 3389 from the authorized IP addresses, which we need to enable it. Then the default security list has the stateful ingress rule, which is allow ICMP traffic type 3 code 4 from authorized source IP addresses. And this rule enables your instances to receive path MTU discovery fragmentation messages. Stateful ingress rule, another one which allow ICMP traffic type 3, all cores from your VCN CIDR block. And this rule makes it easy for your instances to receive connectivity error messages from other instances within the VCN. Then we have another rule, stateful egress, allow all traffic. This allows instances to initiate traffic of any kind to any destination. So what does it mean? It means that the instances with public IP addresses can talk to any internet IP address if the VCN has a configured internet gateway. That we need to make sure, right? Now, as we stateful security rules, they use connection tracking. The response traffic is automatically allowed regardless of any ingress rules. So default security list comes with no stateless rules. However, you can always add or remove, rules from the default security list. And if you're thinking about enabling a ping, the default security list does not include a rule to allow ping requests. And if you have a plan to ping an instance, then you need to, handle fragmented UDP packets rules. You need to see that one. The default security also even does not include a rule to allow, other stateful ingress rule is also for if you're using IPv6 enabled VCN, then there are other 3 rules available. So the default security list in an IPv6 enabled VCN includes default IP4 rules and then the additional IPv6 rules. So any default security list which you enable IPv6, it will have IPv4 rules, and then the additional rule will be stateful ingress, and then stateful egress that will allow the IPv traffic. So that's how the default rules of security lists will come into play when you will create a VCN. Now, definitely the security list, you need to create a security list, then you need to add security rules to the security list, and then you need to associate the security list with one or more subnets. And then we need to add create the resources in the subnets. That's how it comes. You need to have a IAMS policy to access, from administrator, and then you can use either the console, right, and or then the APIs, for example, list security list, get security list, update security list, create security list. So these are the APIs available which will enable you to create the security lists. Now, another important topic, which is I think last topic which we covered, these 3, this session 5 and 6 part of that one, which is VCN Flow logs. Now, each instance in a VCN or virtual cloud network has one or more virtual network interface cards, which we usually are commonly calling it VNICs, virtual network interface cards. Now, what the networking service uses security lists to determine what traffic is allowed through a given VNIC. The VNIC is subject to all rules in all security lists associated with the VNIC subnets. That's what we understand, and we know that it is being assigned to that. Now, if we got any problem or any issue to help to troubleshoot your security list, or order the traffic in and out of your virtual network interface cards, what basically you can do, you can set up a VCN flow logs. And VCN flow logs record details about traffic that has been accepted or rejected based on the security list rules. So what VCN flow does, VCN flow logs shows details about traffic that passes through your virtual cloud network. VCN flow logs help you order traffic and troubleshoot your security list. And flow logs are, enabled and managed using the logging service. Flow logs can be generated from VNICs, Ps, RCs, Now, if we need to, how the flow logs are enabled and are being provided. So flow logs are enabled and managed using the logging service. Now let's get into some basic detail on the logging service. What is this logging service? Now, what is the Oracle Cloud infrastructure? It's a scalable and fully managed single pane of glass for all the logs in your tenancy. So logging provides access to logs from Oracle Cloud infrastructure resources. And these logs are including, all the diagnostic information. For example, these logs are the audit logs related to events emitted by the OCI audit service. And these logs are available from logging audit page. Then there are service logs emitted by OCI native services such as API gateway, events, functions, load balancing, object storage, and VCN Flow logs. That's what we are covering as a VCN Flow logs as a topic. Custom logs, logs that contain diagnostic information from custom applications or other cloud providers or an on-premise environment. And that's the logging. A log is a Oracle Cloud infrastructure resource that stores and captures log events collected in a given context. Right? That's now let's go back to VCN Flow log. Now, flow logs are enabled and managed using we understood that from the logging service. You can enable flow logs for a given subnet, which means traffic is logged for all the existing and future VNets in that subnet. And each flow log record contains information about traffic for a single VNet. And flow log contents, there are details, flow logs, what are the flow logs available. It basically reflects one direction of a connection between two endpoints. For example, for a single TCP connection, you may have two records in the capture window, one for ingress traffic and the other for egress traffic. Right, so that's how it uses. So it has a different, for example, resources, subnets, log categories, API value all, console, or descriptions, availability, comments. It has data, action, all the information are available. And I think I will put it in the show notes, the corresponding standard documents, so that you can go and you can have details on it. So with this, what we have done is we have covered our topic, which we started as, what are the different ways to secure your network, which definitely we started from public versus private subnets. Then we worked on security rules. Then we worked on firewall rules, gateways and route tables, IAM policies, security zones. We haven't covered in detail, but we just touch base on that one. So with this, these are different ways that help us to control security of Oracle Cloud network and compute instances. So with this, we are done with this session, and I think we will continue our journey. There are more details and basic concepts which we need to, but I think from a general basic understanding from our point of view, the Oracle Cloud Network Essentials part, we are covering the basics. Definitely what my idea is next is that we will take a one use case, any packaged application, for example, Oracle, Hyperion, e-business suite, or Siebel, or PeopleSoft, and then we will run through starting from like a scratch that, okay, how to build an architecture and then how to set it up cloud infrastructure through either Terraform or through console or APIs. And then we will deploy it. That's my whole idea, is that after covering these basics, then we will move on to that one. And I'm getting convinced that I think we have covered most of the basics. Then now we will slowly start moving towards our objective of migrating and taking an example as a model project to move the workload. Thank you so much. Have a blessed life. And just for information, that the Open Tech Talks, the TV, the podcast is available on Spotify, Google Podcast, and then Amazon, Apple Podcast, and there's so many other podcast providers. So feel free to share your comments, feedback. Thank you so much for learning and sharing, and all the informations are being provided from the standard documents, and I will put it in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to the OTech Talks podcast, and be part of Tech Talks at otechtalks.tv. It's a turf to share ideas, insights, and innovations.